So, hello everybody. We are here with Palestinian activist that is active in Zurich to talk about the current situation in Palestine. Hello. So, for our first question, could you maybe give us an update on what is happening right now, maybe with a special focus on Gaza?
Yes, definitely. What is happening now in Gaza is a genocide against the Palestinian people, pure and simple. But I will give some context first. Gaza is a strip of land, 365 square kilometers, with a population of 2.1 million Palestinians, 81% of which are refugees. These refugees used to live in the lands that are now called Israel, and they were ethnically cleansed from their lands in 1948. And they have been living as refugees in refugee camps in Gaza ever since, for 75 years. But to imagine it even more clearly, we're talking about 300,000 more people than the residents of the Zurich metropolitan area, living in an area that is less than 17% of Zurich metropolitan area. This is the strip of land that Israel is now bombing indiscriminately, razing to the ground neighborhoods one by one. In 6 days, Israel dropped more tons of bombs than what the US dropped in Afghanistan per year. In 6 days, it dropped more than what the US bombed Afghanistan with in one full year. Right now, we have more than 1,500 Palestinians dead, mostly civilians, 500 children, 267 women, not to mention the civilian men. At the same time, Israel today demanded 1.1 Palestinians to evacuate their neighborhood, which Israel is actively demolishing to the ground. 1.1 Palestinians means half the population of Gaza living in the area that we said is 17% the area of Zurich metropolitan, and they have absolutely no place to go. The Israeli defense minister called Palestinians human animals, and subsequently he stated that no electricity, no water, or food will be allowed into Gaza until it is utterly defeated. And this is what we are actually witnessing happen right in front of us. This is what we are witnessing right in front of us with full Western backing, with the backing of all the NATO governments. The US Foreign Secretary and the US Secretary of Defense have actually joined the Israeli war cabinet. They are actively participating in this war. The US has moved its largest aircraft carrier to the Eastern Mediterranean. Others will follow from the US and from other NATO countries. The US and the UK are sending bombs to Israel, and Germany is sending drones. Basically, this is a full imperialist war. The fact is that all the pillars of global imperialism and hegemony rushed to the defense of their colonial outpost in the Middle East. They cannot accept their colonial outposts to be defeated, and so the masks are off. Colonialism is back loud and clear. Imperialism is back loud and clear. Everyone must understand that Palestinians are not only fighting for their lives and against their own genocide. They are fighting imperialism everywhere. The machine that lives off the blood and sweat of the poor in every continent and makes profit out of war everywhere. The machine that is driving our planet to extinction to accumulate profit for the global 1%, for the military-industrial complex, killing people, genociding people, destroying the planet. This is the reality. Gaza is just one part of it.
So you mentioned the call for evacuation before. What are your thoughts about this call to evacuate the north of Gaza within 24 hours? What will happen when these 24 hours are over?
What will happen when these 24 hours are over is what is already happening. Israel is indiscriminately, as I said, bombing Gaza, killing everyone in its way. Bombs are being dropped on apartment buildings without any warning. More than 71 families were fully wiped off the civil notebook, as we say in Arabic. More than 71 families, full families, were wiped off. And this is not today. These are the numbers from 2 days ago. Probably by now the number is much higher. What we need to understand is that Israel is a settler colonial project. Since 1948, it was built on genocide. It was built on the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. And what we are witnessing today is just another episode of that, but a very dramatic episode. What Israel wants from evacuating 1.1 million Palestinians is not to clear the ground for a ground operation. What it wants is to ethnically cleanse Gaza, whose people have proven to be a formidable resistance force against Israeli colonialism. What Israel is doing now rapidly in Gaza, its settlers, the settler militias, have been actively doing in the West Bank as well for the past years, especially after the fascist right-wing government took power. Israeli settler militias in the West Bank are attacking village after village. They are being protected by the IDF, the Israeli army, and they are killing Palestinians, torching houses, cutting olive trees, basically driving Palestinians out of their lands. What Israel wants is for no Palestinian to live on the land of Palestine. Again, this is the main logic of this settler colonial project. This is the main act that has established the so-called Israel. And this is the only logic that it understands. The war in Gaza now is a genocidal war. The call for 1.1 million Palestinians to leave their neighborhood is a call to ethnically cleanse Gaza.
So, and in what context has the attack of the Hamas on Israel be understood?
What needs to be understood is that Gaza, for 16 years, has been under blockade. Gaza is besieged by air, by land, by sea. Gazans have no place to go. Their borders are controlled by Israel. They have no way to import whatever they want to import. Israel has actually enforced a policy by which it calculates how many calories Palestinians can eat per day so that they can only survive, but not more. This is the context for what has been happening in Gaza for the past 16 years. Every couple of years or a bit more, Israel launches another attack on Gaza in which thousands are killed, mostly civilians, the same way that we are seeing in this war. And the people in Gaza, 71% of the residents of Gaza are clinically depressed. 71%. 40% of the residents in Gaza are unemployed. People have absolutely no hope for the future. People have nothing to hope for. People have no horizon. And a colonized society has every right to resist its colonization. The world has left Gazans no other option but to explode in the face of their colonizers. The world should ask itself, what have I done in the past 16 years to prevent what has happened? Have I helped Gaza? Have I supported Palestinians even in the non-violent acts of resistance that they called for? Did I support the BDS? Did I support the boycott of Israel so that it lifts the blockade on Gaza? Or did I criminalize the boycott? Did I criminalize even the calls for non-violent resistance? The world, and especially the West, what we're talking about here, has criminalized every non-violent Palestinian act. What else is left? What else is left for Palestinians to do? This is the responsibility of everyone, especially the ones living in this imperialist core. Your governments are facilitating the genocide of the Palestinian people. Your governments are facilitating the military-industrial complex to make profit out of the lives of the innocent people, not only in Palestine, everywhere in the world. Israel has been testing its weapons on Gaza every war for the past 16 years. It is marketing. They go to the military conventions every year and say these weapons are tested. We know that they work. They know that they work because they have killed scores of Palestinians for the past, not only 16 years, of course, much more than that. But this is the situation on Gaza. More than 10,000 Palestinians have been killed in the last years. For profit, for imperialism, for Israeli colonialism. And people here must understand that they have a responsibility here. Your governments are funding Israel. We have seen how every colonial government and post-colonial government, we're talking the UK, France, Italy, Germany, the US, they have actively joined the war cabinet. They have actively joined the war effort that Israel is waging against the Palestinian people. Your governments are doing this. You as a people have the power in these supposedly democratic countries to stop what is happening. You have had this power for the past 16 years. You passed up this chance. Palestinian people have erupted violently and very rightfully. And now you should ask yourself, did I give them any other way? What am I doing now?
What does it mean that the Hamas is in control of Gaza, while in West Jordan land the Fatah is in control?
Well, the background to this is that in 2006 there were Palestinian elections, and Hamas ran for elections to the Legislative Council, which is the Palestinian parliament. Hamas won the majority of votes. It was the democratically elected party to form the government, and so it formed a government. But right after Hamas formed that government, the EU and the US basically blocked all funding from the Palestinian Authority. They refused the democratic choice of the Palestinian people. It did not suit their plans. Actually, Hillary Clinton then said, if we had known that Hamas would win, we wouldn't have done those elections. Hamas is the democratically elected Palestinian party, and Hamas has support of the majority of Palestinians until today. What has happened is that the West blocked funding from the Palestinian Authority after Hamas won the elections. Israel blocked the tax revenues that it controls for the Palestinian Authority and gives it to the Palestinian Authority, and it forms the main bulk of the budget of the Palestinian Authority. And what they intended by that is to pressure the Palestinian people, again, in an act of indiscriminate punishment, an act of collective punishment against the people for their democratic choice, so that they would renounce the government that they have elected. What this resulted in was that basically the government was weakened. Again, then by US support, Fatah tried to wage a coup d'etat against the Hamas government. It didn't work out. Hamas actually was able to do a counteroffensive, taking control of Gaza. And since then, there has been a Hamas government in Gaza and a Fatah government in the West Bank. What we really have in the West Bank now is a Palestinian Authority that is actively acting as an agent of the colonial regime. The Palestinian government in the West Bank is fighting any resistance against Israel. It is controlling by security and by economic means the population. It is a classic case of a local agent for the colonial regime. This is what we have today. Actually, there have been no elections in Palestine. The so-called Palestinian president of the Palestinian Authority has been in office without elections for 16 years or so. It is not a democratically elected government. It is not a democratically elected president. And the closest thing we have to a democratically elected government is actually the Hamas government in Gaza.
And what are the thoughts of the people in Gaza on the attack of the Hamas?
Well, let's be clear. The attack is not only by Hamas. The attack is one in which every Palestinian resistant faction has participated in, from the Marxist-Leninists to the Islamists. This is a war of liberation. This is a war against colonialism. We will not be cornered. The media rhetoric about this being a jihadi, this is pure propaganda. This is a Palestinian people fighting for its very existence. And as I said, for someone who has been living in Gaza for 16 years, unable to leave the Gaza Strip, for someone who has no prospects for jobs, no prospects for a living, clinically depressed, as I said, what else do you expect? Are you also gonna ask them and prosecute them for the feelings that they feel when once in their life they saw their people march back into their ethnically cleansed villages on which settlements have been built? Are we gonna really deny them the feelings that they feel once they see this scene of liberation? This is pure hypocrisy, and unfortunately, it is very rampant in the West.
You already talked about the narratives before, and also about the criminalization of Palestinian existence in general. So the next question would be, what do you think about the discourse on Palestine and Israel in Switzerland?
Well, let's start very simply. It is completely biased. This is the least one can say. Only the Israeli narrative is being centered in the media, which has become really a propaganda machine, a propaganda for the war. They are really rolling the drums of war everywhere, even in the media that is supposedly leftist or supposedly objective, which by now is clear is a lie. This is what we're saying. Most newspapers are inviting and publishing Israeli voices. They are only focusing on the Israeli side of the story, and there is no mention of the thousands of Palestinians, again, mostly civilians, who are being killed now. And this is not to mention that there is absolutely no context in which what is happening is being framed in. There is absolutely no context of the 16 years of blockade on Gaza. There is absolutely no mention of the occupation, and absolutely no mention of this being a colonial issue, a settler colonial problem that has been going on since 1948, built on genocide and ethnic cleansing. And without this, no one can understand what's happening.
What are your thoughts on especially how violence is discussed within this discourse?
Well, you know, it's very clear that what was started by the Israeli government is being continued by Western governments and even by Western media. The Israeli government has dehumanized Palestinians actively. The defense minister had said, "We are fighting human animals." And what we are seeing here now is basically an extension of this. Violence against Palestinians is completely disregarded. The lies, the Israeli lies and propaganda about what happened in the battle are being propagated. There are claims about atrocities with absolutely no evidence. The West and the Western media, which whenever a Palestinian is killed or whenever a person from the global South is killed, ask for every piece of evidence to the minute detail about what and who and how and when this happened. Suddenly, now all this critical thinking, all this guise of objectivity is gone, and they are propagating Israeli lies. Palestinians are dehumanized here. Violence is not understood in its context. And this is actually to the detriment of the West itself. If you do not understand where the legitimate violence of the anti-colonial resistance comes from, if you delegitimize and dehumanize the colonized people completely, then this violence will come and bite you back. When millions of Palestinians, billions of Arabs and Muslims around the world, and more than that, of people from all the global South, from all the nations that have been colonized for the past 500 years, see and know that the West does not care for their lives, does not care for them as humans, when we see this hypocrisy, when everyone realizes that all the so-called ideals of this West are nothing but a guise for colonialism and nothing but a guise for imperialism that has now fallen, the repercussions will be grave. The repercussions will be grave, and the people here, the innocent people, will pay for what their government is doing.
In today, there would have been a Kundgebung, like a demonstration in Basel. That would have been in solidarity with the Palestinian people. Now, for example, the permit for the demonstration was withdrawn. In what context does have to be understood?
This is to be understood in the context of hypocrisy. Basel, which today has banned the Palestinian demonstration, has just a couple of days ago raised the Israeli flag on the building of the municipality. How can anyone understand this? Yes, today they claim that they banned both pro-Israel and pro-Palestine demonstrations. First of all, as I hope is clear by now, any demonstration for Palestine is not pro-Palestine. Any demonstration for Palestine today is pro-planet, is pro-environment, is pro the wretched of the earth everywhere. This is what any demonstration for Palestine today is. And this is what they are afraid of. Yes, they are hypocritical. Yeah. Universities here in Zurich, in Basel, in Bern, I don't know where else. They are banning Palestinians. They are banning anyone from expressing solidarity with Palestinians, and at the same time claiming that they are arenas for free discourse and debate and so on. The ETH has issued a statement saying that basically banning a demonstration or an event for Palestine on the Politerrasse. They said that they refuse all acts of violence without any substantiation of this claim. What they are saying is that any call for the protection of Palestinians from genocide, any call for support of the oppressed people anywhere, is actually a call for violence. What they are saying is that colonial violence is accepted, imperial violence is accepted, violence by Western governments is accepted, but any attempt to even save oneself from that is the one branded as violence and not accepted. I don't know. Maybe if a 60-ton bomb that is worth hundreds of thousands of francs kills you, maybe it's fine because it's expensive, you know, you're high class dropping this bomb. But if you respond to it, then you're the violent one. This is a call for every Swiss person, for every Swiss leftist, for anyone who hears this, to stand in solidarity with Palestine, to attend the Palestinian rallies and the pro-Palestine rallies, to attend the demonstrations that are calling for the end of this genocide, and to refuse the hypocrisy and to refuse the attempts at silencing Palestinians and silencing the voices in support of Palestinians. The bans on demonstrations shall not pass. What is happening is active genocide, and unless everyone does their role to stop it, they are complicit.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much
Thank
that you
you.
came
Thank
here.
you very much.
Thank you.